and my friends in England were watching it and were like, we saw you on the, and like, making fun of me and stuff. But yeah, it was organised by...
He did like a 1,000-yard stare.
ICRT.
Hello and welcome to Taiwan Talk, an interview show where we focus on topics from and about Taiwan. I'm today's host, Trevor Tortomasi, and this week I'm speaking with Adam Hopkins. Adam is a freelance journalist writing and editing for a multitude of publications. He also works at a travel agency running tours around Taiwan, which, as we know, is an industry hard hit by the pandemic. What's it called, and how has it been affected by the pandemic so far?
The agency is called My Taiwan Tour, and it used to be a company where we would basically, like, foreigners would visit Taiwan and we'd offer like bespoke like guided tours, or they could customize a tour, so like we'd help them craft like an itinerary. So you want to go to Taroko Gorge for 3 days, we'll get you a driver, we'll get you an English speaking tour guide.
Was there an exact moment you realized that the pandemic had changed the world and especially the travel industry?
I think it's when we stopped having customers.
Okay.
So because it's like a travel agency where our main source of income was foreigners come in to visit Taiwan and they don't speak Chinese, they can't read Chinese, so we have like a fleet of like tour guides who speak English. And I think it really changed when the borders shut to non-residents. So we just basically there was a little while when we had like no customers. I was supposed to go to South Korea for the first time to do some comedy, to go on holiday, and that ended up not happening. And then I was like, if people are cancelling flights for this, then I think Taiwan's going to be affected. And then lo and behold, that also happened. So we just had a lot of bored tour guides hanging around the office.
When the fleet started to get smaller, what were the bare bones that they decided to keep in the travel industry?
I think we got quite lucky because I think a lot of money was actually put into the travel industry, into Taiwan's tourism industry, just to keep it alive, because pre-pandemic it was such a big industry. Like millions of tourists are coming in each year. You go somewhere like YongKang Street or Jiufen or something and it's just packed with tour groups, packed with foreigners. So a lot of operators were hit pretty hard, but we just kind of shifted the way the business works. We changed from targeting foreigners to targeting Taiwanese people. And there was like the big incentives last year, like people were getting like coupons towards hotels or for attractions. And
it seemed to work.
Yeah, like over a lot of people just, once kind of like the paranoia or the fear had gone a little bit, because obviously Taiwan was hit by SARS pretty badly, so especially a lot of the slightly like older generations were very cautious, and like people were wearing masks everywhere. A lot of people still wouldn't travel, like people this year still wouldn't actually, for like Chinese New Year wouldn't. But I think once like the cases had been, it's been 2 months without a domestic case, and people started getting more relaxed, when the local tourism industry actually benefited quite well. It was kind of like a resurgence. So we changed the products we offer a little bit to target like Taiwanese people and maybe give them an experience they're not used to. Like we have like yoga retreats, or we have like a spin-off like called Sciology, which is like Sci is like Taiwanese for master, and ology is in just science. So like put them together.
I thought the Sci part would be the science.
No, it's
you'd think. What is science?
It's just double science.
The study of science.
And it's so you can go and do like an activity with like a Taiwanese master who's like really been honing this craft for years. Like you can go to like Nantou and you can make your own bamboo toothbrush and do sustainable stuff, or you can go and make your own soy sauce like in Miaoli or somewhere like that kind of thing.
That doesn't sound so bad. Yeah,
it's interesting products that especially when you're like an agency, you need to offer stuff that people can't do alone. Because like, we could take you to go to Jiufen Old Street, but like a Taiwanese person doesn't need help doing that.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So like we had to really like...
They've seen Spirited Away. They've
seen it. They've lived it, you know what I mean? But so yeah, it was just basically trying to make a more niche kind of specialized product. But like for the actual job I do, I edit our like magazine and blog, which is in English, it's called Taiwan Scene. And I'll write English language content about visiting Taiwan. So like before the pandemic happened, we'd have like this is our product, and you can find out more information about this place to see if you want to do it, kind of thing. But now we've had to shift to maybe target local, like foreigners who already live here. For example, like, here's how you open a bank account, or there's like more practical stuff. See, like, for example, when it comes time to pay taxes or something, you're scrambling online. Where do I pay tax? What time do I have to pay tax?
Right.
So ideally, we'd like to become the place where foreigners, we'll go on Taiwan Scene, and this is where my information is. Because a lot of time people will just post a Facebook status and hopefully their friend knows. It's like, hey, where can I buy this in Taipei? And maybe someone knows.
And even that doesn't seem that polished, because you'll post, hey, where can I get a toothbrush in Taipei? And it'll be like recommendations and show a map of all of Asia.
How far are you willing to travel? Oral hygiene.
Oh, man. On the topic of getting the word out, and also telling, I guess, foreigners around the world what Taiwan's situation is like. You wrote an article for Vice about what it's like living in Taiwan during the pandemic in a country where they handled it pretty smoothly.
Well, basically, I wanted to write something just because I was really annoyed how the UK was handling it, and just to prove that there's places which can do it properly. It just showed how, like, I was like boasting about the tracing system. Like, do you remember when that cruise ship came in last year?
I do remember that.
And then we all got that like Google map, which had like the hotspots on it. And it was like, this is where all the people, I think, this is where all the tourists visited who had COVID potentially. They put the pandemic action plan into place. They were so well prepared. It was just phenomenally impressive.
Yeah. That
kind of like gave me like the peace of mind that it might be okay here if this is happening so quickly.
So apart from travel and journalism, you've also played some impressive cricket matches. What's your history with cricket? Can you explain what cricket is? For those?
I was going to say
for those who might not know, but we can just say Americans. This is a friendly space.
Americans and Taiwanese as well, because I usually just say it's baseball but good.
Okay.
And that gets a lot of mixed reactions, especially from Americans. I think baseball's the biggest sport in Taiwan. But no, I've been playing cricket since I was 11 years old.
It's about long enough to finish one game?
Yeah, okay. That's the thing. You try to explain, like, you played for 5 days and it's still a draw. but that means both sides have really been so skillful. Now, the longest game I ever played was 3 days.
So I heard that you played in a match that drew attention from a global audience during the pandemic.
Yeah, we they organised a league here. So it was over, I think it was 4 weekends in March to April last year. And it was a really weird situation where Taiwan was the only place on the planet where you could actually play competitive cricket. And the game has such a huge audience, particularly in like the subcontinental countries, especially like India. And there's a lot of Indians in Taiwan who play cricket. And it got to the point where we televised it in India. It got picked up by this like streaming app called Sports Tiger, which is like an Indian streaming app, and it was on YouTube for a little while. And people were just watching Taiwanese cricket.
Sliced over point, backward point, 4 runs.
But like it was super weird. Like people were betting on it.
You can bet on anything, I guess. You can bet on a corgi race.
Thanks for the British corgi angle, the Queen.
Okay.
So like, if you just Googled it, and there was these guys who were writing like articles for how to pick your fantasy team, and like saying this guy's a good player, but they don't know, and they were making it up. Like, I just find my name in these articles. I saw this video on YouTube where this guy was doing a whole advice for the draft in Hindi, and the only word I understood was Adam Hopkins.
Okay.
And, like, it was bizarre. The team I played for was we had an English guy, a couple of Sri Lankans, but everyone else was from India. And they were telling me, they were like, oh yeah, you're really popular. And I was in the league, like, everyone's picking you. They're all saying you're really good. And I was like, oh no. That's horrifying. I remember my mum was watching it and my friends in England were watching it. And they're like, we saw you on and like, making fun of me and stuff. Uh-huh. But yeah, it was organised by...
He did like a 1,000-yard stare for a moment there where he thought back on it. In a similar thread, you've been a pretty regular comic at 2-3 Comedy, doing stand-up in a time where it's pretty hard to gather big crowds for comedy in most places around the world. What kind of line do you walk when trying to make people laugh in Chinese?
Well, if you're doing like an English show, a lot of people will do little punchlines in Chinese or setups or something, but it's usually you're making fun of your own lack of language ability kind of thing. So like I used to have this really dumb joke, which I kind of wrote ironically to talk about how foreigners are always like, oh, I mixed up this word with this, and I had this joke about mixing up the word for bees and honey because it's just the characters the other way around. And just like, oh, so I went to the supermarket and I tried to buy a jar of bees.
We don't sell bees. You must do. It's a supermarket. Every supermarket sells bees.
And you've also done international comedy for quite a few years. How long has it been?
I started doing comedy in the summer of 2017. So I'm 3.5 years in.
You're 3.5 years old.
Yeah, I'm basically, yeah, and that's a baby. That's not like if I was like trying to get gigs in New York, no. But like doing it in Asia, it's kind of there's less comics and there's slightly more opportunity.
And this is doing it in English specifically.
Yes, yes, definitely. The Chinese scene here is taking off quite well, but I don't know as much about that. It's completely different. But doing it in English, for example, like a year into comedy, I'm in like an international festival, or like when I used to do it in Shanghai, there was a point where comedy was huge in English in terms of the reach was big, like globally as well. Like international comics would fly in to headline the clubs and we'd get to be their opening acts.
Who people pay to be funny.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you just watch them and you're just like, oh, this is how it works. So like I'm really excited for eventually when we'll be able to bring comics into Taiwan, like professionals, and everyone's like, oh, you're really funny. I'm like, no, this is what it is.
All right. So is there anything else that you'd like to say to people living in Taiwan? Foreigners, locals, and both?
Just keep up the good work. Like, don't take it. The worst thing, I think the health minister even said this, the worst thing is when people here start getting vaccinated and people start letting their guard down, because again, it only takes one.
So something I also noticed in Taiwan is during the pandemic was that the first time they sent out that text about the cruise ship, when they put the locations of all the people that had been infected with COVID and were kind of around Taipei, it didn't explode. And even recently, still in Taiwan, we had the Taoyuan cluster that was so immediately controlled. And even when they said, hey, this person was positive, when they went to the mall, they went to Costco, they went to like 3 different giant places yesterday, and still it didn't spread.
Especially because of like the population density here. How did it not spread as much?
I think it's mostly because people are wearing masks, and it's really coming to terms with how much wearing masks makes a difference.
It's a really good case study for, hey, masks work. So does hand sanitizer. Like, it's just that simple.
Yeah, I mean, like if I leave my house and I forgot my mask, I will go back upstairs and I will get it, I'll put it back on, because that's just something we do when we go out. And the fact that we're all doing it, that's the hardest part, is getting everyone to do it. Also, I never thought I would get, if you told me 3 years ago that in 2021 you're going to get really excited every time you hear about a new travel bubble, I wouldn't have believed you.
First of all, what's a travel bubble?
First of all, travel bubble. All right, so anything you like to plug? Your work articles, links, shows?
Yeah, for sure. Like, if you want to read stuff that I've been writing, please visit Taiwan-Scene.com. And then for shows, just come down to 2-3 Comedy. Look at search 2-3 as in TWOTHREE Comedy on Facebook.
I'll spell it on the screen.
Yeah,
but thank you for that. Well, thank you, Adam, for joining us today. And thanks to everyone else for watching Taiwan Talk with the amazing Adam Hopkins. Until next time, I'm Trevor Tortomasi on ICRT FM 100.